Derek was just fascinated about his love for people and the community, so he decided not to raise the services and prices of drugs at his pharmacy. This was always a bone of contention between his wife Sarah and himself for the past 5 years since they established the pharmacy that has helped provide a huge relief for the poor and needy who couldn't afford to buy those expensive drugs, both off the counter and those that had been prescribed. One day, one young lady in her mid-20s, clad in some tattered clothes, walked to the pharmacy and met Sarah, wife of Derek. She sold a couple of painkillers to this poor young lady at an exorbitant price, even higher than the competitors that sell in the neighborhood. "This is too expensive," she retorted to Sarah. Sarah scoffed at her, explaining that they don't get the drugs from their usual suppliers, hence the decision to increase it to meet the current standards. Immediately, Derek had just parked his car and stepped out from the parking lot and headed straight to his pharmacy, only to see Sarah in a heated argument with this poor lady. Upon reaching, he inquired why there was so much vocal commotion at the pharmacy. The lady introduced herself as Debbie and told Derek all that happened. Derek then asked Sarah to charge the old price, and she reluctantly did, leaving the counter. Debbie then thanked Derek and shuffled her feet off to the streets again. Sarah decided to pick a quarrel and complained bitterly about the decision Derek had taken, and he reminded her of his pledge to keep sustaining the town. Sarah then whimpered and asked coldly, "How do you intend to keep the place running when we can't make a profit to keep the business running?" He replied that is due for permission in the next month, so they can hold on for a month, and pretty soon he's applied for a grant and assistance, and he's attended an interview to allow the grant makers assess him, and that in a month's time as well they would come and have a due diligence assessment done, so things will be alright, hence you shouldn't worry. She shook her head in disbelief and headed away in angry mood, bumping her fist onto the table, much to the dismay of some customers who are trooped in to purchase some medications. Few weeks passed and the same struggle and fight lingered on as usual. The next day, which marked the beginning of a new month, Derek approached his boss. His boss was as usual sipping his coffee when he heard a knock on the door. He signaled Derek to enter as he peeped through the glass partition, and Derek, full of excitement on his face, entered. When he entered, his boss signaled to sit down, and he did with all the smile. When he sat down, his boss pulled his file and began looking into it intensely. He smiled at him. "Derek, I must admit, you've been one of our wonderful staff at this health facility, and I think nobody doubts your capabilities in this facility." Derek beamed with a smile and looked a bit shy as the accolades kept lingering on. After a brief moment, his boss went mute and his demeanor changed as he released a huge sigh. That seemed to have gotten him a bit confused, and he asked, "Sir, is anything the matter?" His boss was as silent as a deaf mute. Derek immediately lost his smile. Then he said to his boss, "Please, is there any issue?" His boss lifted his head up and looked straight into Derek's eyes and said to him, "It's not about you, and don't take it personal, but unfortunately, we can't continue working together. Our employers have sold the health facility, and as a result, we are closing down by tomorrow. We are deeply sorry about every consequences and inconveniences caused." Derek's hand was shaking as if he had just been plagued with Parkinson's disease, and beads of sweat on his face began to turn into an entire ocean as his handkerchief was all wet with sweat because of the bad news. He stood up and he fell flat to the ground. The next few hours he found himself at an unfamiliar place with sounds of patients being called by their number tags to see a consultant doctor. His eyes opened gradually like a fresh baby tasting the breeze of life for the first time after being attached to his mom's umbilical cord for several months. He looked around and didn't see a familiar face, but he only sees the face of a beautiful glowing nurse who attends to him with the words, "Thank God you're alive." He breathes heavily and knocks faintly. "Where am I?" The nurse assures him he is in good hands and that he would have died, but except for some of his colleagues at his old workplace who brought him here to the Wanda Metropolitan Hospital, one of the most expensive hospitals in town. He asks of how he got here, and the nurse tells him how he was rushed in, but for a second wondered why no family member had been there, after they had managed to call his wife several times that he was in a bad condition, but unfortunately it was to no avail. Then he reached his hands into his pocket as he tries to get up and sit straight, but that act hurts badly. Ouch! It hurts. She tells him to relax and that all will be well. Tears start to glide down his cheeks. Then the nurse reaches out for a tissue on the table and cleans his tears. Soon, a call comes through from his wife. He picks, and on the end of the phone, all that was said was, "It was over. I'm done. Come and sign the divorce papers." Then Derek burst into tears. The nurse tells him not to worry, and that because he's a good man, he would definitely find a new wife. The nurse then reveals her identity, that her father owns this hospital and had heard of the wonderful work he was doing for his community and was looking for a way to reward him. He decided to buy the health facility he worked and upgrade and hand it over to him to manage, since his services had once helped him about 3 years ago. So he shouldn't worry, he should rather feel safe. Few years later, he had gone back to his pharmacy, which had now become one of the biggest in the community. It had been given a facelift into a center that provides highly subsidized medications to customers. Lo and behold, his wife Sarah came in with a very sick person believed to be her mom. Because the new workers didn't know Sarah, they didn't give her the treatment she was expected to be given. With the aim of causing commotion once again, as she often does, Derek and his new wife Debbie, who happened to be that same old dirty lady in her 20s who had come out, and they met Sarah causing mayhem. Derek asked what the matter was and what Sarah was doing. Sarah explained that the drugs were too expensive and that she couldn't buy them, and she wanted to use her position as a wife to get the medication for her sick mom, since it was that particular pharmacy that had that type of drugs. Derek smiled and said, "Now you know the importance of running things on the low." Derek laughed and asked if it be given to her for free of charge. She was quiet. Then Derek signaled them that they should give the drugs to her free of charge. The lady Debbie reminded of how she treated her cruelly and added that it was only a test from her father to see if Derek hadn't changed, and that was the road to Derek's success. Sarah begged to be a second wife, but Derek would not accept. She leaves and doesn't return. Moral of the story: never relent on doing good, and remember to always be a source of hope to everyone you are closer to. If this is the first time you're watching us, remember to subscribe for more life lesson videos. Thank you. If you want more videos, remember to subscribe, hit the notification button to get more videos.